Welcome, friends. We're back. We took a break again. That's
I got
just
lost
gonna
in the woods.
Yeah, Ashlee got lost in the woods, and I got lost in the sauce, I guess. I don't know. But
the sauce from the fucking chicken tenders that they no longer have at Steak and Shake. That's what we got lost in.
fucking outraged. Fucking outraged. I'm not going to get over that, I don't think, ever. That's like my go-to for Steak and Shake. I don't like the steak burgers. I really don't. Something about the texture of the steak burger. Yeah. Do they still have the spicy chicken sandwich there? Or is it all like...
No chicken. No chicken at all.
Boycott.
Well, steak because the steak burgers were fine, and then they stopped toasting the buns, because now it's just like all fast food, but they didn't change the buns, so now they're just like thick fucking untoasted buns with cold ketchup on them, like plebeians.
Get fucked, Steak and Shake. How dare you? Ronald Weasley, how dare you steal your father's car?
But yeah, I also got lost in the woods, so that's why the other week we didn't have anything going on.
Realistically, like, let's just be real, guys. We are just busy ladies. And, like...
Especially the past couple weeks.
Yeah, like, both of us have a little bit chaotic things happening right now. Not necessarily bad. I got a new job. I quit my job today because I got a better job. But it's, like, hectic because I'm starting very soon at the new job, and there's, like, a lot of... It's fully remote, which is fucking great. But I have a lot of shit that I have to, like, do. Like, I had to go get fingerprinted today on my lunch break, so all I had for lunch was a freaking Reese's Fast Break, which was delicious, but not very filling, because it was on the go. But I got fingerprinted, and actually, the guy that did it is like a Paul Blart-looking campus cop for the local university, which is where I went, and he was just like the sweetest old man ever. So, not really a bad experience, but anyway, yeah, I started a new job, so I'm a little overwhelmed, and then, of course, Ashlee is in the middle of like a planned move as well, so we're busy ladies with busy lives.
I am desperately trying to move. Not that I don't appreciate everyone here. Actually, it's funny because a lot of people are like, Ashlee, don't move. How dare you move? You should stay exactly where you are. I'm like, I will still come and visit, probably more than you think. So.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think anybody from my job listens, but I am also looking for a remote job. And if any of you do listen, no, you didn't hear that. You know what I'm capable of.
Arson,
murder, blackmail. I got a whole folder of blackmail, baby.
Just wait for the first person to fucking... Well, people have. They're still alive, but only because you let them be.
Only because I deemed it more inconvenient for me to kill them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, also today, so one of our favorite hobbies, well, I'm just saying it's one of our favorite hobbies because we do this like every year, but today is the Met Gala, and I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff, because it's literally like happening concurrently, like with when we're recording this, and I had high hopes for this theme. It was gilded glamour, something like that.
It's like the Gilded Age or something, yeah.
Yeah. Reminiscent of the Gilded Age is kind of what we're going for. And all of the people that I've seen so far were like 1920s. Guys, no. You are about 40 years too early. 30 years too early
30 years
in the
too
historical
late.
timeline. Yes, sorry. 30 years too late. Because I am really passionate about historical fashion on YouTube and stuff. It's very entertaining to me, and I like to watch my fancy dress shows, aka The Gilded Age, which was great, and Bridgerton, and Downton Abbey. And if you're gonna have that theme, you guys, do your research. Makes me mad. I'm unimpressed by the looks that I've seen so far.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of Art Deco, and it's just like, no.
Not what it's about. And I like how I'm sitting here fucking criticizing people's couture and literally a fucking sweater with a raccoon on it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. So, like, Jasmine Tooks, I don't know who that is, or Tooks, but I think she nailed it. So she's got on, like, an emerald green gown. You'll have to look it up later. The over the elbow gloves are a little bit flapperish, but I do think that her hairstyle is more reminiscent of Gilded Age than flapper. I think that one's good. I don't know what the hell Nicki Minaj is wearing. She didn't get that at all.
Mm-mm. I will say, I think her name is Kaya Gerber. She didn't hit the theme at all, but she had, like, this really great, like, Botticelli style hair. And I'm like, girl, you look great. But the theme, you didn't crush it, but you still look good.
Lizzo hit it.
Oh, I haven't seen...
Lizzo with her gold flute. Oh, you'll have to check it out. Because it's not, like... It's not Gilded Age, but it's not... It's more in the theme than a lot of these other ones.
Okay. I feel like you either have to go, like, Gilded Age historically, or, like, be gilded, as in, like gold. Dripping in fucking gold. And I fucking love Lizzo, so... Hell yeah, she crushed it.
Okay, but I probably forgot to send it to you, but she got the gold flute for the Met Gala. Like, somebody got it for a present, and she's just, like, opening up the flute and just, like, ripping out sick bars on the flute. Just, like,
oh my god.
Like, no warm-up, no nothing. Just, as a musician, I can really appreciate her.
What a freaking icon. Okay, so, my husband, I found out recently, loves Lizzo. Because we have to watch shows while we eat because he's a loud chewer and I have misophonia. But we watched Saturday Night Live recently, and he's like, no, I don't want to watch this episode because we're like a couple weeks behind. He's like, but Lizzo hosted this one, so I want to watch the Lizzo episode. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, I listen to her at work all the time. I was like, okay, I mean, I'm for this. I love this. Because I also love Lizzo, but, like, if you ever met him or came across him, you would be like, there's no way that he's, like, Lizzo's number one fan, but it turns out that he is Lizzo's number one fan, so.
I'm still looking at the Met Gala looks. Lenny Kravitz is so hot. Even now.
Seriously, that whole family.
Unbelievably hot.
I watched about 30 minutes of the Batman before I fell asleep. But... highly recommend just because Zoe looks great.
Oh yeah. Also, Paul Dano in it. The TikTok sound of the Ave Maria like has a grip on my psyche right now. That and still the Fitness Gram Pacer test remix.
Mine is that my money don't jiggle jiggle, it fold. I like the wiggle wiggle for sure.
For sure. Makes me want to dribble. You know. Right into my feet. You really have to see it.
6'2" in a compact.
No slack. No stack.
I like it when the seats go back. Kick back and relax. Anyways, that is the number one for me, that TikTok sound.
Anyway,
now that we've talked about rich people, I feel like we should get to the meat of the episode, which is fucking hillbillies.
Hillbillies! I'm a hillbilly.
Yeah, let's get more into our speed. These are my type of people.
Ashlee story time.
What are you talking about this week?
Fun fact,
I'd rather hang out with the hillbilly folk than the Elon Musk rich kind of people.
On my mom's side, actually, we are hillbillies through and through. My grandma, my great-grandma, but she was alive until I was like 18, 19. Anyway, she was born in a tent on the side of a mountain. Like, that's how hillbilly we are. But anyway, so speaking of, uncommon births in Hill Nation, one stormy night in Kentucky, 1975. And maybe it wasn't actually stormy, but let's just imagine for a minute because it adds to the ambiance.
Adds flavor.
The night was pitch black, stormy. As Alva Stacy paced the labor and delivery waiting room, chain smoking, as one did in 1975, waiting to hear the results of his old lady Hilda Godsey's labor. Was it a boy? Was it a girl? Did anybody make it out alive? The nurse rushed out in panic, saying, "Your baby is deathly ill. There's something seriously wrong. We gotta take it directly to the University of Kentucky medical center, like right now. It's 116 miles away, but we gotta take this baby or we think it's gonna die. So they threw everybody in the back of an ambulance. We're like, get him over there. What caused their concern, you may ask? It was because this baby, although seemingly healthy, breathing fine, was born a completely dark blue, like a Smurf. Like he had just been dipped into a vat of blue dye or like blue Kool-Aid and pulled out. And nobody had...
Okay. So, throwback to early 2000s through maybe 2010s internet. But did you ever bear witness to the, hey, Papa Smurf, can I lick your ass? Yeah, lick my ass, bitch.
No.
And it's like a whole music video of like animated Smurfs, and then Papa Smurf is like having the Smurf hose lick his ass.
No.
And that's the kind of thing that we were watching online at ages 13, 14, and 15.
See, I feel like you had, like, the good side of the internet. I feel like I saw a bunch of dark stuff on the internet. Like, back when we were younger, like, you could just see somebody get killed and, like...
Did you watch the Coke bottle video?
I don't think so.
And subsequently, I don't know if it was the same person, but a mason jar.
Is it the one where they put up their butthole, or?
Yup, and it shatters.
Oh, yeah, actually, I do think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, that was the era of, like, 2 Girls, 1 Cup and all sorts of other really dark stuff, and, like, you could just see, like, a baby's head pop off.
You could literally see animals. Okay, there was one video with a horse that I don't want to get into too deep because it was really fucking gross. But you could, you didn't even have to be on the dark web. You just Googled it, and there you were, 13 years old, watching a man shove a Coke bottle up his asshole. Right.
That's how it was.
Mom, I'm sorry.
I'm not. Although, did I ever tell you the story about, like, when I was trying to lure, like, predators out to my house so I could trap them in a well?
No. And I feel like that's really a great way to get yourself abducted and or murdered.
I wasn't thinking through. I was just thinking, like, if I can make a tiger trap or something and, like, get them stuck in a tiger trap and be like, oh, follow me, ha! And then just, like, jump over it and then they, like, fall into it.
Did you, like, get too into Chris Hansen or something? Like, the
Predator?
Or what was it? No, it was Chris Hansen. I was going to say Jack Quinones, but...
Yeah, I got really into Chris Hansen. I was like, I could do this. I was like, if... Nobody's going to miss these people. Mm-mm. So, that I am sorry for.
Wait. When we eventually live in the same city again, fingers crossed, can we, as just a cool, fun hobby, catfish predators and, like, confront them at Walmarts?
Like the one TikTok or whatever it is. The video where the guy's like, this guy came to meet a 15-year-old girl for sex! And he's, like, playing it on his, like, bullhorn or whatever. Oh, God, I want to do that. I kind of want to do it, though, like, where, like, I dress up as, like, a teenager or something, and then I just, like, turn around and, like, but I put, like, a old lady mask on or something, and I'm like, hello, Clarice.
Oh, my God. Okay, this kind of, like, reminds me of this a little bit. I got my hair cut this weekend, and I went in, and I was just, like, chit-chatting with the hairstylist, and I said something, oh, yeah, I, like, graduated in 2010, and she's like, you don't look that old. And I was like, I mean, thank you, but also I don't feel like 30 is that old. Also, I wasn't mad at her. I tipped her very well because she was very nice, but I'm like,
do you think she meant, like, do you think she meant that you thought you were talking about, like, your college year of graduation, or?
I don't quite know, because, well, if she didn't understand it then, like, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm, like, only 30. But she was just like, no, we were definitely talking about high school. I was like, oh, yeah, I graduated high school in, like, 2010. And she's, like, shocked that, like, oh, my God, you don't look that old. And the way she said it, like, you don't look that old. Like,
yeah, but, like,
not that old.
You have to think about the people of Kansas, though. Like, a lot of them are, you know.
Also, I'm a childless 30, so, like, maybe I do have less stress wrinkles.
Yeah.
No offense to you 30-year-old friends of mine that have kids. I'm just saying.
Or anyone
I feel
that
like I
has
live a less stressful lifestyle. So
I don't know, though, because I feel like I have a lot of family members that do have kids and they still don't look that old. Like, I think it just, A, depends on your genetics and, like, how hard of a life you've had.
Anyway, sorry. I, like, Papa Smurf and then this whole thing happened. So back to the hillbillies, please.
Okay. So these people, these not really much more educated or anything than hillbillies, were like, we gotta get these people over to the University of Kentucky Medical Center. Like, he looked like he'd been, dipped like baby Achilles into a vat of blue dye. So Alva, Hilda, and the baby, who they had named Benjamin, Benji, Stacy, they were there for 2 days, like, just getting poked and prodded, medical testing. They had no clue why the baby was blue. Until Benji's grandma came in to see the baby, and she was like, oh, yeah, y'all never heard of the Blue Fugates in Troublesome Creek? And the doctors were like, is she talking about birds or something? And then Alva, the dad, was like, oh, wait, yeah, he does have Granny Luna's skin. So he goes on to explain that his grandmother, Luna, had actually just, like, dark blue skin, like this baby, and that she came from a family known as the Blue Fugates, or the Blue People of Kentucky. And he also said that she was one of the darkest blue people in the family. It was real bad in her. Now, I'm sure you're wondering what the hell a Blue Fugate is. Yeah. So they were a family where many members of the family had dark blue skin, dark blue nails, really dark blue faces. And otherwise, they were perfectly normal, and they had resided in Troublesome Creek for about 200 years. Sealed, as many Appalachian families were, in an isolated capsule of hillbilly inbreeding.
Ooh. Love it.
So, the first Fugate, a Frenchman named Martin Fugat, settled down in Troublesome Creek around 1820. Martin never really knew his parents, as he was an orphan, and he decided that the hills of eastern Kentucky were as good a place as any to settle down, since he didn't have anyone to visit for Christmas. So he's like, I'll go out to the bumfuck middle of nowhere, I don't care. Now, Martin, he had kind of been described as having sort of a sickly, pale look to him. Sort of a gray person, like, think Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows, just, like, blends into the background. With him being sort of a weird gray foreigner, it was a huge shock when Martin met the beautiful Elizabeth Smith, and they instantly fell in love. Elizabeth was described as pale and white as a mountain laurel that blooms during the springtime in the holler. Not freakish, though,
Did you come up with that, or...
No, that's what they said! They said,
geez.
She was as pale and white as a mountain laurel that blooms during springtime in the holler. Although they did call it a hollow, but they're saying holler.
That's, like, pretty romantic for a couple of hillbilly folk.
Have you ever, hillbilly people, they got some good speaking words on them sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I shouldn't judge or assume that they're just, like, chugging Mountain Dews and watching NASCAR.
Mountain Dew ahead.
Speaking of NASCAR, okay, this will be a quick sidebar. I recently came across this girl on TikTok named Tori Bredeker, who is, like, this gorgeous 22-year-old, and she's, like, a fucking kick-ass NASCAR driver, and I'm in love with her. She also does modeling, and tell me she's just not the coolest person in the world. She is a identical twin, she does modeling, and she's a fucking NASCAR driver, and got, like, millions of followers on TikTok.
Is she funny, too? She sounds funny.
She's not, like... Well, I don't know, because most of her videos are thirst traps, so I don't know much about her personality.
Okay. So she might be a little dumb, but...
She might be a little dumb, but... I'm still in love with Tori Bredeker, if you're out there.
But did she have skin as pale and white as a mountain laurel that blooms during the springtime in the holler?
She did not have skin as pale and white as that.
Okay, so back onto the Fugates. So this was a freakish stroke of fate because unbeknownst to Martin and Elizabeth, or really anyone even scientists at the time, they both possessed an incredibly rare recessive gene that led to 4 of their 7 children being born with light blue skin. And they were just
and you said this was in the 70s?
No, this is back 200 years before that. Okay, so that was around 1810.
Gotcha.
So they were just like, this is perfectly normal. A little odd, but perfectly normal. And as they were isolated in Troublesome Creek with just a few neighbors, and also in this part of the state, there wasn't really any rail lines going through to Troublesome Creek until the early 1910s. So they just kind of went with it. They're like, all right, we got blue skin. What of it? And the neighbors that they had were pretty understanding and obviously didn't burn them as witches or, chase them out of town or anything, which this type of understanding and tolerance is actually a pretty common theme in extremely isolated Appalachian communities, mm-hmm. especially before, the dawn of media. They're just kind of like, all right, And I feel like you really see that with, the Melungeon communities where they're just like, come hang out with us because obviously nobody else wants you around. So, that was a lot of, escaped slaves and Native Americans and, the Romanical people. But yeah, so the Melungeon communities, they were very accepting of all skin tones and ethnicities and kind of common for those areas. However, it was still a pretty small dating pool in the area because despite the tolerance of these Appalachianites and these hillbillies, just because the neighbors didn't kill the weird blue folks, it didn't mean that they wanted to marry into it. Mm. So the Fugates, especially the blue ones, they were unable to leave the area of Troublesome Creek to seek out suitable mates that were not blue outside of their family tree. The lack of transportation in the area, coupled with the prospect of moving to a more populated area, brought the threat of them just being captured and sold into slavery as a sideshow exhibit, or just being killed because they were blue and someone thought they were aliens or something, which, that's how people thought back then. So this led to a lot of interfamilial marriage and inbreeding within the Fugate, Stacy, and eventually Combs families in that area. An example of which, Benji and Alva had earlier descended from a line of the family that resulted in a union of Martin's son Zachariah and his mother's sister. So he married his own aunt.
Oh.
Imagine.
It's a little close. A little close for comfort.
Very close. So if you figure that his mother had it, then his aunt probably also had it. Mm-hmm. The genetic isolation allowed for the continued expression and increasing vibrancy of the blue skin genes. So where they kind of started out, they just had sort of a lighter bluish tinge. It started to become very vibrant, almost indigo blue. Other than the blue skin, they really had no other issues that most other inbred families had, like the Frog Kids or the Habsburgs. They just looked and acted like normal people. They didn't have a lot of the other congenital issues. They just were fucking blue. This went on until the early 1960s when the blue-skinned Fugates began to resent their skin. This is when the media and transportation really started to branch out. They wanted to rejoin society, they wanted to go out to the dance halls and stuff, mm-hmm. but they couldn't exactly do this being bright blue. And around this time, people in the community also started to they started to identify the people with blue skin as people having excessive inbreeding, and so they started to reject them and kind of bully them, and this was the time of the people just being really aggressive and mean. It was post-war U.S. baby boomer kind of era. A lot of lead poisoning, and you come across the cousin fucker, you don't exactly want to engage with them in any sort of way. You want to chase them out. And so the Fugates were like, we got to do something about this. We don't want to be blue anymore. If we can find a cure, that's great. But we also want to find out why we're fucking blue. And it was around this time that Madison Cowayne, a hematologist from the University of Kentucky, became fascinated by the reported blue Fugates of Troublesome Creek. He drove all around Kentucky looking for him until he met Ruth Pendergrass, a nurse at the American Heart Association Clinic in Hazard, Kentucky, who helped him find them, as she was equally intrigued by the blue people. And she had actually seen a few of them coming in for blood tests because they were like, something else wrong with us? We want to make sure we're okay, good to go, don't have heart or lung disease. Mm-hmm. Now, this is kind of weird because he was actually from the University of Kentucky, which, if you remember, that's where they sent Benji to get tested, the medical center. So it's like this so quickly within like 15 years had gone way out of their like scope of attention, which just goes to show you that Kentucky's fucking stupid. Like, sorry if you're from Kentucky, but clearly the University of Kentucky like doesn't have their shit together. So Madison and Ruth, they started trying to reach out to the blue people at the residence. But every time they would approach one or try to approach the property, the blue people would just run away. They're like, They were used to getting stones thrown at them or whatever. And the Madison and Ruth, they were becoming more and more frustrated with the situation. They're like, we want to do science. Just let us do science. But the blue people were like, no science here. Only magic. But one day, 2 of the Blue Fugates walked into their clinic, Rachel and Patrick. And they were like, please, we don't want to be blue anymore. Just help us. We don't care what kind of magic, what kind of science you got to do on us. Just make us not blue. So they went to go see the Dr. Medicine, the hematologist, incredibly embarrassed of being blue. Like, they were cowering in the hallway. They didn't want to go in the exam room. Like, they didn't want to be cut open or anything. They just were like, we'll sit out here and talk to you where we can kind of get out quickly. I mean, they, at this point, were pretty used to being abused by the normal people in the society. So he started running a bunch of tests on them, just like, okay, what else is going on here? What can we rule out? He was shocked to discover that though they were incredibly blue, I mean, their nails and their faces were indigo, dark. They were healthy otherwise. His first hypothesis that they were just so deprived of oxygen that they were blue, so he tested them for heart and lung disease. And again, like, that all came back clear. Because, like, the preliminary tests said that they were healthy, but he's like, no, there could be other stuff going on here. Mm-hmm. So as he was running these tests, he started asking them about the other members of their family that were blue, some questions about their lineage, and then he started to chart the occurrences of people that were blue in the family, and, like, aggressively blue, and figuring out where the family tree was. And this led him to his next hypothesis, which turned out to be actually the correct one. So he only really had like 2 ideas that he was like, okay, these are the 2 things that I think are going on here. So the correct one was that they had a rare but serious blood disorder known as methemoglobinemia. And this is a disorder in which the body produces an abnormal amount of methemoglobin, which is a non-functional blue version of hemoglobin. And, of course, hemoglobin is a protein in your blood that can transport oxygen to your tissues. So when someone with the methemoglobinemia, when they have this, it means that the hemoglobin in their blood can carry the oxygen, but it cannot effectively release it into the tissues of the body. Hence the cobalt, like, bright blue color of their skin. So as it was getting worse and worse and worse, they're just getting bluer because there's no red blood going to their outside skin tissues. Mm-hmm. Which is, like, surprising that they didn't have more issues than that.
Right, yeah, you would think.
Like, you would think that their skin would just be, like, sloughing off or something, because there's no oxygen getting there. So it can be passed down through families, or it can actually just happen spontaneously in a person, and it can be caused by certain medicines, chemicals, or foods, where, like, it'll just affect the way that your body produces it. So Madison, the hematologist, he collected research actually from studies of isolated Alaskan Eskimo populations, which I guess this also happened in a lot. And there he was able to determine that the Fugates had a rare hereditary blood disorder that resulted in the methemoglobinemia. It's hard. It's a hard
mouthful,
word. Yeah.
Sure.
It's like you could have just called it like blood blue disorder or something.
Yeah.
So now that he had the cause, he was like, okay, stop fucking your cousins. Step 1. That's the first step to stopping this. But he's like, okay, we still need to try to see if we can find a cure for this. Like, these people can't just be blue for the rest of their lives. And so weirdly enough, and he was just like, you know what, here's what we're going to try. The solution was adding more blue.
Okay.
The best chemical for jump-starting the body's process of turning the methemoglobin into the regular hemoglobin is methylene blue dye. So it's just, like, bright blue dye. Mm-hmm. So he showed up to their house, and he was, like, injecting them with it. He's like, okay, I'm going to inject you with this blue dye. And they're like, sir, we are already blue. You are going to turn us more blue. And he's like, no, just trust me. Just trust me. And luckily, he had already built up that rapport. So he's like, let me inject you with this blue dye. So he injects them with the blue dye, and immediately they turn pink. Like normal skin tone. Mm-hmm. And they were delighted. They're like, we look normal. These people had only ever been blue their whole lives. They're like, we can go out in public. We can go to the grocery store. We can go buy Oreos.
Very important.
Yeah. So Madison was like, okay, you just got to take these tablets for the rest of your life. So it's just methylene blue tablet, just dye, like what you would have in like an Easter egg. Like, like the little dye tablets. Mm-hmm. And so they would be able to live their lives like normally colored pink people. Now, the inbreeding into the 1970s was filtering out. Because when Madison and Ruth were going around doing stuff, this was in the 1960s, remember? Mm-hmm. But just 15 years later, they had already forgotten about it. The University of Kentucky had already forgot about it. But anyway, with the inbreeding that was filtering out in cases like Benji, he was only blue at birth. So they were thinking that he only had one copy of the gene, making him heterozygous for the blueness, and he actually stopped, like, pretty much all the blue had filtered out by the time he was 7 years old. And every once in a while now, a descendant of the Blue Fugates will come out blue, but it's not in the case where they need to be taking the dye every day. And sometimes even people that don't really have the genes for it, or like obviously they have the genes for it, but they don't have the super dominant genes for it, they will still turn blue if they get angry, stressed, or cold. Like they'll just turn like bright blue.
Imagine knowing you pissed your spouse off because they literally just turn bright blue.
Right, like not red, it's blue. But also imagine, like, knowing that you're, like, if you had a friend that turned blue, like, oh, you're inbred.
You're a cousin fucker, Timmy.
But yeah, that's the story of the Blue Fugates.
Is there, like, photos of them?
So there are a few. Most of them aren't in color. There's one that's colorized. And then there's one where you can actually see one of the ladies, and she, like, it's black and white, but, like, you can see how much darker that she is than everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So.
Well, shit.
So, here's your warning. If you ever turn blue, just take some blue dye.
I was going to say, if you ever turn blue, start looking at that family tree, because someone
fucked a cousin somewhere.
Noodle, do you have anything to say about that?
Oh, no, you're just gonna what a nice girl.
Walk through and... Well, Noodle, everyone.
Devan's story time. Ooh. What are you going to talk about?
So, I had a hard time picking a story this week because my brain is, like, all mush. No murder. Like, I just don't have the capacity in my brain to do murder stories this week. So instead, here's what we're going to do today. I have selected a handful of lesser-known cryptids from North America, not because I am a supremacist for North America, but because when you're trying to pick from cryptids, there's a lot of them globally, and it's easier to compare when they're all sort of like, in English, so I understand what the fuck is going on, basically. So what we're going to do, I'm going to tell you about each of these cryptids, and then what we're going to do is we're going to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5 emojis in the areas of cuteness, credibility, and relatability.
Well, I'm going to give them all a 10 out of 10 for credibility because...
Well, yes, of course.
I believe in all cryptids.
Yeah, all cryptids are good cryptids. But anyways, at the end of this story time, we will be crowning our Miss or Mr. Creepy Crawly USA 2022. Okay. So, I feel like I need to get something to write with so I can keep track of who is in the lead. So, let me just lean over and grab a piece of scrap paper.
Are you going to send them to me on Facebook?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to send you pictures of these guys on Facebook.
Yeah.
And also, I need to know what your... I have a feeling I know what emoji you're going to pick for your 1 to 5 scale for your rating mechanism, but just for the record, may it be stated.
Bitch, you know it's vampires.
Oh, yeah. It's the vampires.
Okay, wait, but there's a story behind this. So, I work in, like, a corporate environment. Like, I'm pretty high up in a corporate environment, surprisingly, because I am quite feral. But one day, it was, like, late. It was, like, 5 in... Well, I guess it was, like, 5 in the morning, so it was early for some people. But I get this, like, email from someone, and he's... From someone who is the COO of our company. And he said, it was in response to something I had said, and he said, "That's great." And it was a vampire. I was like, what? And so I asked him, I was like, "Hey, what is this vampire?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought it was a thumbs up." And that was the day that I learned that our CEO was blind.
Oh.
But it was funny.
I didn't know that part of the story. I thought he just, like, fat-fingered it. But no, he's blind, so he picked the vampire instead of the thumbs up. That makes it actually very wholesome. Well, for my rating mechanism, I'm going to use an emoji I didn't know existed until earlier today, and that's, like, the mountain troll-looking emoji. So, I felt like it was fitting for, you know, the cryptid pageant. So, yes, we've got Ashlee rating with
vampires.
You know, vampires out of 5, and I'm rating with mountain trolls out of 5. So, now that you guys know the rules here, you don't get to play along because, of course, this isn't live, but I'll just go ahead and present our first contestant. Drum roll, please. I wish I had pageant music to play, but yeah, there we go.
There
first contestant to the stage is the Arkansas Galro. Okay. So, the Galro. I feel like I need to be doing this in a pageant presenter voice. Galro is an elusive little guy that has only been allegedly seen once that I could find. I'm not going to do the pageant presenter voice, that's too much. But
you have to do it!
For the most part, what it looks like, from theories based on stories about the creature, the description is as follows. It's approximately 20 foot long. Okay, so during this portion, picture in your head the Galro is doing his catwalk on the stage in evening wear. Okay? So, approximately 20 feet long with tusks and claws and is very reptilian looking. Beautiful, slimy skin. It also had a row of horns along its back and a long tail ending in a blade-like point. A built-in butt machete, if you will. Its hobbies include making an assortment of creepy, uncomfy noises like groans and hisses, and also biting people that enter its cave home in the largely unexplored Devil's Hole Cave in a small village of Self in Boone County, Arkansas.
You got a picture of this?
Oh yeah, I gotta send you a picture.
Send me the picture.
Yeah, let me send you the picture. Okay, so, Ashlee, I'm gonna send you our first contestant, the Galro.
Is it like a mud puppy, but with a razor tail?
Well, sort of.
Oh, he's cute.
So that's the Galro. For those listening, we will be putting it on the screen as I talk about this, but for those of you not watching and just listening, rather, use your imagination, and I will maybe post the contestants in a little slide that you can check out on our Instagram.
For those just listening, it kind of looks like if a monkey fucked a walrus and a stegosaurus, and then the blade kind of actually looks like a flamingo head. So,
yeah. It's unique. So, the story of the Gowrow, it dates back to... My notes just slipped. It dates back to about the late 1890s. So one day in January of 1897, an article was published in the Arkansas Gazette that was written by Albert Smithy and illustrated by Elmer Burris. So the illustration is what actually I have just sent to you. That's our portrayal of the Gowrow. It's based on a photograph, which for that period of time, it's not like unheard of that they wouldn't have just posted the photograph, because it wouldn't have been as easy to copy into newsprint as like a block illustration would have been. So the story is actually a retelling of events from a man named Fred Alsop, who edited the Gazette at the time, and he recounted this event of his friend William Miller to the man that wrote the story. So this is like a third-hand retelling of a story from a man that possibly saw the Gowrow. Can you stop chewing on that box? It's a little distracting.
I wonder who named this.
Do we get that answer? I don't think we do. But anyways, so, per Fred, a, quote, horrible monster known as the Gowrow, named this because the noise it made during its nighttime attacks. So, it's what its monster groans sound like as Gowrow, apparently. So, this monster had been slaughtering livestock and pets in nearby township. Being fed up with the monster's shit, Miller forms a posse that tracked the Gowrow to its lair, which was a cave that was littered with animal skeletons and even some human remains. As they waited at the cave to ambush the monster, the Gowrow goes, "Surprise, bitch!" and the hunting party heard it emerge from a nearby lake. So it wasn't in the cave, it was pulling a surprise and hiding actually in the lake and not the cave. So as he comes from the lake, it causes the ground to tremble as it makes its way toward them, so he's a beefy boy, and the Gowrow ended up dying after the standoff between the hunters. However, as unfortunate as this is, before its death it managed to rip up several trees and tore off the leg of one of the posse members, so it got its, a little bit of revenge in the end. After this skirmish, Williams claimed that he sent the body to the Smithsonian Institution. However, it never actually arrived to the Washington, D.C. Museum. Later, an Ozark researcher and folklore collector revealed additional details about the Gowrow and suggested that it was simply a species of creatures rather than an individual monster. So there's a whole bunch of Gowrows, apparently. They said that Gowrows hatched from soft-shelled eggs as large as beer kegs, and I love that that's the unit of measurement we're using. And apparently, mommy Gowrows carry their newly hatched babies in a pouch like a kangaroo. The researcher relayed a story about an encounter with a Gowrow by a spelunker who was exploring Devil's Hole in Boone's County. Remember, that's where our Gowrow is said to live. And he also told of someone from Polk County in Arkansas who claimed to have captured a Gowrow by inducing the creature to eat so many dried apples that it swelled to the size that prevented it from escaping its cave. So basically, they were like, I captured a Gowrow because I fed it so much and it got so plumpy that it couldn't leave its hole. So like Beauregard effect. It just got too fat.
Well, but if they're thinking like snake logic, like if it eats, it gets a distended belly, maybe is what they were.
Yeah. Well, and the guy that captured the Gowrow, he was exhibiting his catch to anyone that would pay a quarter or a nickel, a dime, whatever they had. And then once he had a sufficient audience built up, he would stagger from behind a curtain with his clothes all torn up in rags and announce that the Gowrow had escaped. And then this would send the crowd into a panic, and he would never actually have to produce an actual Gowrow, so nobody ever saw his captured pet. So, explanations that we have for Mr. Gowrow are as follows. One, it is a classic example of Ozark folk humor. People here essentially just like to take the piss out of others and pull one over on them, and apparently just like tell campfire tales, and this one seems to have just gotten to a point where it really took off. It got published in an article, and then people were like, hell yeah, the Gowrow exists. The second example or theory we have for this is that it's a legend based on the alligator, which lives in the southern 2/3 of Arkansas and can grow up to 12 feet long. And someone must have just gotten murked by an alligator, and hence the Galro was born. So, folks, that is contestant number 1, the Galro. So, cuteness, how are you rating? I'm going to give him a 3. I'm not impressed. So, a 3 trolls out of 5.
Yeah, I think 3 vampires. Just because I feel like could have been put together a little bit better. It's not giving me apex predator. It's giving me, like, animal that's evolved to the point where it's going to die soon.
It gives me very much the vibes from that movie Walrus that Justin Long was in. Yeah, so,
Kevin Smith produced or directed.
Credibility.
0 vampires out of 10.
Yeah,
or 5.
He's getting a 0 because clearly someone, I feel like, made him up.
Yeah, I feel like that's because there's like the ones like the skinwalkers that you're like, yeah, that's real. And then there's the ones that you're like,
I'm especially skeptical of ones that just popped up in the last like 200 years.
Yeah. Especially if there's like a scammer culture based around it, or like there's a drive to get tourism around it.
Yep. That guy selling peep show moments of the Galro for a quarter and then just, it escaped. Yeah. Not buying it, but the Galro as a creature, relatability. I am giving him a 4 trolls out of 5 because I, too, eat until I'm physically uncomfortable. And I also don't like it when people come into my home. And I would love to bite them. So he's getting 4 from me.
I'm going to say 5 for relatability because I, too, am full of rage.
Perfect. Okay, so our Galro has 18 points.
Are we going to have a miscongeniality, too?
Oh, we can for sure have a miscongeniality. All right, so round of applause for contestant number 1, the Arkansas Galro. All right, next contestant to the stage is the Slide Rock Bolter.
Picture.
So, picture. Beep, boop. For those of you watching, enjoy that picture. For those of you listening to the sound of our voices.
I love it. I love it. Oh my god. It's so happy.
The Slide Rock Bolter, as you can see, is a certified big boy recounted by the lumberjacks of North America during the 19th and early 20th centuries. It's believed to live in the mountains of Colorado, but this guy is a picky mountain squatter and only lives in the mountains where the slope was more than 45-degree angle. No. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I lost you for a second.
No, I'm just in awe of this.
Oh, okay. Phew. Okay, anyways, so he only likes mountains that are at a 45-degree angle. He is a picky squatter. So it has a big old fat head and small beady eyes compared to the rest of its girthy size, and a big ass mouth. Its tail has a split in the end. So picture like a dolphin tail, except for each of the 2 little fins are like a little more tensile and can like, grasp things. And it uses these 2 little weird ass fingers to grasp onto mountain peaks. So basically, again, for those listening, picture this cryptid as a whale-sized slug with a big fat-ass mouth and then 2 hooks for a tail. Slow.
I love
so
it.
The Slide Rock Bolter's hobbies include waiting for a tourist or helpless creature on the mountain below it, and then at just the right moment, it will release its grip on the mountain and slide down the slope on its belly at fucking Mach 10 with its mouth wide open to swallow anything that gets in its way. Whole parties of tourists are reported to have been gulped up in one scoop by taking parties back too far into the hills. Its body is also so large and strong that trees in its path are often broken and destroyed. After sliding down the mountain and gobbling up pedestrians and animals, it relies on its own momentum from the slide down to power it up the adjacent mountain, where it will dig its little tail claw in and wait for the next meal to walk by. So, because of this habit, the Slide Rock Bolter was attributed to have been responsible for many disappearances of tourists over the years. Its method of hunting was also blamed to have destroyed the mining town of Rico. So according to the legend, a forest ranger whose district was between Ophir Peaks and the Lizard Head in the Rockies, it's in like southern Colorado, kind of near Nevada. Not Nevada, New Mexico, I believe. But anyways, this forest ranger vowed to destroy our good buddy, the Slide Rock Bolter, because he was sick and tired of them damn tourists getting eaten and trees being fucking slushed down the mountain. So the ranger hatched a plan. He decided he was going to make a dummy tourist as bait, but it wasn't just a casual dummy. It was loaded full of explosive powder. The ranger then placed the dummy at the base of the mountain and waited for the Slide Rock Bolter to take the bait. And sure enough, the monster fell for the bait, resulting in a massive explosion that leveled half the town of Rico. Goddamn. Now, after doing some research about Rico, I cannot find any recorded evidence of a large-scale explosion that destroyed this town. But there was a large hotel fire in 1903 that happened in sort of the middle of like a mass exodus from this mining town. And then after the fire, like whether it was just part of a natural process of miners leaving for more profitable cities, or if it was due in part to the property damage caused by the large-scale fire, over 60% of the businesses in town ended up closing, and the population dwindled from like 4,000 people in 1893 to only 811 by 1903. So, anyways, unfortunately, there are no recent sightings of Slide Rock Bolter, probably because it is self-conscious, but it has no reason to be.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. All babies are beautiful. And
well,
many believe
no.
That,
all cryptids are beautiful.
All cryptids are beautiful. Some babies are weird looking.
Most babies are weird looking.
Yeah. Until
Not
they
me,
get to a
was
certain
gorgeous.
age, babies are kind of strange looking. Anyways, many people believe that the Slide Rock Bolter still thrives in the mountains of Colorado, either by being buried into the mountains or being forced to evolve in order to evade any threats as well as to make hunting more efficient. There aren't many logical theories for this one, just based on the size and general absurdity of it, honestly. But my personal running theory for it is that the Slide Rock Bolter is just some sort of weird like allegory for rock slides that would come down particularly steep mountains and then just destroy like the trees, people, and animals.
Or like avalanches in the winter.
Yeah. Yep, especially when they say it's like most common for steep mountains, because it would make sense that the rock slides would come down at such a pace that it would just fucking level everything.
I could also see him. What's it called again?
The Slide Rock Bolter.
Okay, so I could see him being like, oh, well, the Slide Rock Bolter got him again. But, like, they know it's a rock slide, but, like, people coming in, especially because it's, like, around this time, you're having sort of, like, the late adopters were coming into the gold mining towns, and it was, they weren't going to get anything, and they would hear these things, like, and they'd be like, oh.
How easy would it be to mishear rock slide boulders as the Slide Rock Bolter?
Right.
So, that's my theory on it. And as far as the story about Rico goes, I have a feeling that it was just like a washed-up mining town that someone just like made up this absurd story about how the boom town kind of like came to be fucking kaput. Mm-hmm. So, that is our contestant number 2. On a scale of 1 to 5 emojis, vampires, cuteness?
6. He is gorgeous. He is stunning.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
My reaction when I saw him
is perfect. I'm giving him a 4. Mostly because I have my favorite on this list, and this is not him. And so I might be a little biased. But credibility. Again, I'm giving this one a 0.
Yeah, that's a 0. It's a rock slide.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like some of it's just people, tourists being dumb. Like city folk being dumb.
I would agree with you on that. And relatability. How relatable?
5. I too want to just slide down a mountain at people. Like, I want to, like when you roll down the hill as a kid, I just want to do that. Mm-hmm. I just want to slide down the mountain. I just want to race.
if you replace the mountain with, like, a twisty slide, but a very clean one, and the people with french fries just going into my mouth, that is, like, my dream. I'm going to give it a 3 for relatability. Because I have to have these conditions where I just want it to be french fries and a slide where it's not going to hurt my tummy. Okay. Oh. Shocking twist. This was a tie. Also 18 points. All right. We can't share the crown, ladies.
All right.
We got 2 more contestants, so round of applause. Slide Rock Bolter. Woo! Okay. Next up, we have the Squonk. Okay, so...
Send me pictures.
Pictures. Oh, we need visual references. We need visual references for the contestants in the show. Okay.
That is not... Oh, wait. Never mind. I got it now. Oh, my God.
Okay, so Squonky Squonk comes to us from the hemlock forests of northern Pennsylvania. It has been named the homeliest of all living things in Pennsylvania. The range of the squonk is fairly limited, and few people outside of Pennsylvania have ever heard of the little fellas, which are said to be fairly common in the hemlock forests there. In addition to the loose, saggy, wart-covered skin, squonks are said to have webbed toes on only their left feet, causing them to only be able to swim in circles. Tales of the squonk originated in the 19th century when William Cox documented the legend in his 1910 book, Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods, with a few desert and mountain beasts. Mr. Cox, can you please come up with more better titles? I understand the irony of me dissing your titles of the book and also saying more better in the same sentence. But Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods with a few desert and mountain beasts is a mouthful. So, Cox wrote that the distribution of the squonk in Pennsylvania was once fairly wide, the usual habitat being high plains where vegetation was abundant. However, as these areas gradually changed to swampy lake-dotted country, the squonk was forced to take to the water. However, due to the webbed feet on only one side, it could only swim in circles and never got back to shore. Fossil bones allegedly dredged from the lake bottoms reveal that thousands of squonks died of starvation in this manner. In the arms of the angels, fly away.
Pour one out for a real squonk.
Legend says that in the hemlock forests at night, sometimes you can hear a squonk weeping softly to himself. The sound is a low note of pleading, somewhat resembling a bird call. Hunters, who are good at tracking, are able to follow a squonk by its tear-stained trail because our poor, sweet baby squonk is always crying about how grotesque it looks. When cornered and escape seems impossible, or when surprised and frightened, it may even dissolve itself with its own tears. In Mr. Cox's writing, he included a first-hand account from a guy, Mr. J.P. Wentling, who had a disappointing hunting experience with the squonk. He had tracked it, following its tears, as we mentioned, and captured it by mimicking the squonk and convincing it to hop into a sack. While he was carrying it home, he noticed suddenly his pack was lighter, and the crying of the poor squonk had stopped. When he took off his sack and looked in, there was nothing left of the poor little squonko but tears and bubbles. So the theories about the squonk are pretty much that it was made up by Mr. Cox when he wrote his book, and that's the only theories. So, squonk. Cuteness, this is my top contestant. I'm giving it a 5 because it's so ugly that it's cute to me.
I don't know. I see it and I get sad, so I'm going to give it a 2.
Okay.
It makes
credibility.
Me sad.
I feel like this category is really just a wash because I'm also giving this one a fucking 0.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 1, not because I think that it's real, but because I think that it might have been like, you know, like hogs, like feral hogs?
Yeah.
Like, I think they might have seen some feral hogs that were just a little mangy and they were like, that's a squonk.
Squonk.
And then as far as the bones go, they probably just found like a deposit of fossils and they're like,
yeah,
squonks.
So
I'll give it a 1.
What is science? Only squonks.
Right. As good of a guess as any.
For me, as a sad bitch myself, I kind of want to give it a 5. I too look at myself in the mirror sometimes and go, ugh, I could cry. So I'm giving it a 5.
I don't care.
I'm gonna give it a 4 because I feel like I'm rating this one high because it's my personal favorite. So I'm gonna remove a point just to be fair.
I'm gonna say 0 for relatability because I don't relate to that at all. I don't care how bad I look. I still look great. I still look better than the squonk.
Squonk, my favorite to win, ends its turn with only 11 points. Oh, I'm sorry, baby.
You can go cry about it.
I'm gonna maybe name that one Miss Congeniality at the end because he deserves a prize. A treat for the baby.
I agree. Miss Congeniality Squonks 2022.
Miss Squonk is the congeniality queen, and I'm riding a little crown next to his name. Okay. So, round of applause for the Squonk. Squonk, Squonk. Okay. You can hear it crying if it trails off the stage. Last contestant in the Miss and Mr. Creepy Crawly USA pageant is the Pukwudgie. Woo! Picture. So, there are a lot of different pictures and depictions of a Pukwudgie. So, of course, what did I do? I picked the Harry Potter version. Because this is a creature that exists in the Harry Potter universe, particularly in Ilvermorny, the North American wizarding school. So, Pukwudgies ironically also have the longest little description and story, so buckle in. It's not that long, but you know. They're fairly widespread and commonly found in areas with other forms of paranormal activity. They have been sighted near Fall River, which is close to the home of Lizzie Borden, and they have also been sighted in the haunted Moundsville State Penitentiary in Indiana and Round Rock in Texas, where Bigfoot is allegedly from. However, it's said that the Pukwudgie is one of the oldest mythical creatures in North America, having originated from stories told by native tribes, who are mostly from the eastern seaboard. And so they believe that the creatures dwelled in the woods and marshes of this eastern seaboard, particularly in Massachusetts, within the Bridgewater Triangle. Which, if you don't know what the Bridgewater Triangle is, Ashlee, I'm sure that you do, but it's basically like the land version of the Bermuda Triangle, where there's just like a lot of weird shit that happens, and it happens to like be in New England, sort of like encompassing Massachusetts, parts of Delaware.
Aren't there like a lot of weird caverns in it too? Like there's not usually caverns in that area, but there's like actual.
Yep.
Like a lot
lots of murders, lots of alleged paranormal activity and stuff like that. So,
and like disappearances and like just random cars going missing and stuff too.
Yep. So he's already getting points in my book for the credibility because of the Bridgewater Triangle thing. But Pukwudgies, guys listening, they look like trolls with big old faces and have large ears, fingers, and noses. Their skin is smooth and gray on their face, and they also have a coat of hair or fur along their backs and on their heads. They're fairly small, stand only about 2 to 3 feet, and although they look like they would kind of stink, they apparently have a pleasant and florally smell. So the MO for Pukwudgies varies in different folklores from different tribes. In the Ojibwe and other Great Lakes tribes, the Pukwudgie is considered a mischievous but basically good-natured creature who plays tricks on people but is not dangerous. In the Northeast, in Algonquin tribes, they can be dangerous but only to people who treat them with disrespect. Don't step to me. In the Wampanoag and other tribes of southern New England, Pukwudgies are dangerous creatures who may play harmless tricks or may even help a human neighbor, but are just as likely to steal children or commit deadly acts of sabotage. Regardless of the Pukwudgie's motives, their name literally means person of the wilderness, and they are usually considered to be some sort of spirits of the forest. So, Pukwudgies have magical powers, which vary from tribe to tribe, but may include the ability to turn invisible, confuse people or make them forget things, shapeshift into cougars or other dangerous animals, or bring harm to people by staring at them. Most Native Americans believe that if you were to cross the path of a pukwudgie, you should avoid it as much as possible and not interact with it at all, which fair. The Wampanoag legend of the pukwudgie is particularly interesting, and it has a connection with, his name is Mashop, I believe. Basically, this is the Wampanoag creation giant who is believed to have created the land, which is now Cape Cod. And he was just beloved god, and the Wampanoag people often felt that they were blessed and especially taken care of by this guy. And the pukwudgies, they felt a little slighted by him, because they felt like he did not care for them, the pukwudgies, the way that the creator god cared for the Wampanoag people. So they tried to help out the Wampanoag people so that they could be more revered by this creation god. However, their efforts often backfired, or their tricksy nature got the best of them, and the Wampanoag people were not, at the time, grateful for the assistance that they were trying to provide. So the pukwudgies were like, fuck this shit, I'm out. And they were like, we're never going to be as beloved to our creator god as the Wampanoag people, so they decided that instead of trying to get on his good graces, they would just fire back and just become more and more chaotic. So truly just like, fuck you, watch me do it. So they played tricks, and they scared the native people and did nothing to improve their daily lives, basically just caused havoc in their camp. And one day, when the Wampanoag people were fed up with the feud, they decided to visit Granny Squanit, who was Mashop, the creator god's wife, for guidance. And so, on his wife's orders, Mashop collected up as many pukwudgies as he could, and he just chucked them. Literally, like, threw them, pumped them all around the continent, basically from New England to the Great Lakes, as far south as Delaware, and he hoped that by separating all the pukwudgies, it would lessen their power, and that they were more spread out, it would be harder for them to have such a big impact on the native people's lives. So satisfied but exhausted from all the hard work from hurling pukwudgies, this guy and his wife, they took a short sabbatical, but during their sabbatical, the pukwudgies snuck back to Massachusetts and really fucked with the Wampanoag people, and just like were nuisances, basically. They started stealing children, burning villages, and leading lost people to their deaths in the woods, and doing other horrible misdeeds. So, yeah, that's about it. After that, Mashop, he is like, fuck the pukwudgies, and so he sends his sons out to, like, round them up and kill them. And so, yeah, now the pukwudgies are just, like, creatures of vengeance, basically. They're like, fuck Mashop, I'm just gonna be a chaotic forest troll.
Honestly, they sound like the, like, Anglo-Saxon, the fairies. Like, it sounds like exactly like that. Like, little forest spirits that the fair folk, like, don't fuck with them or else they'll rip your head off. But if you treat them nice, then they'll be nice to you.
So, I don't feel like this one really necessitates a personal theory, because it clearly is derived from, like, native lore.
Right.
So, enough said about that. So,
well, and it's just weird because it's, like, the same as across the pond. Like, it's this pretty much, I mean, different stories, but the same traits, the same thing. So, and they have a lot of similarities to, like, Norwegian trolls. Because a lot of trolls, I mean, they look kind of like that, where they have, like, the natural stuff on their back, whether it's hair or some of them have, like, porcupine quills or, like, sticks.
So I guess, like, springboarding off of that, we'll just do credibility first. Because for me, the fact that there's so many similar creatures out there in different cultures gives us a 5 for me for credibility. Because it's not only been something that stories have been told about for, like, eons and eons, but there's also very similar things in other cultures that lead me to believe that at one point, at least, there was something like this. So I'm giving it a 5.
I think there are still forest spirits. They're just few and far between, or like they don't come out. So I'm gonna give it a 5 for credibility. I think it's very credible. Also, generally, like, if Native Americans have some sort of lore about it, I generally believe Native Americans in their lore, because I feel like they know what they're talking about, where a lot of other people don't. Like, these rednecks coming up with the hill monster, no.
No. Well, like, a lot of the Appalachian lore, I feel like, is derived from Native lore, where they're like, if you... like, close your curtains at night. If you hear something in the woods, you don't hear something in the woods. Like, all that sort of stuff, I feel like, is derived from different, like, Native lore, like the skinwalkers, wendigos, things like that. And so, I don't know, it really just, like, permeates into...
Well, and it's, like, it's between Native lore and, like, voodoo lore. It goes back to, like, the Melanesian people that kind of spread, or they were sort of a melting pot of belief systems. So, yeah. I mean... pretty much, if a redneck is telling me something and I don't think that they're just trying to scam me, then I'll believe it. But especially if a Native person is like, this is what we believe. I'm like, that's legit.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So, okay, cuteness for this one. There are some horrifying pictures of what a puckwudgie looks like online, and I picked the cutest one. Ashlee's giving it a 5. I'm giving it a 2 because I'm
looking at some of the scary ones, and I still think they're cute. I'm like, if that showed up to my house, you know what? Whatever.
For the relatability content.
5.
I feel, I was gonna say, I'm giving this one a 5 because it's just fucking petty. They're like, you know what? Oh, yeah. You're not going to pay attention to me, so I'm going to fucking cause chaos until you pay attention to me. I will ruin your life until you
ruin your life. I will burn your house down. I will steal your children and sell them on the black market. I will lead your ass into a hole.
So, guys, guess what this means? We have a runaway winner for the Miss and Mr. Creepy Crawly. What was it named again? I forgot.
You named it.
The Miss / Mr. Creepy Crawly USA Pageant first annual winner is Puckwudgie with 27 points. Woo! Yeah! And let's not forget our Miss Congeniality, the Squonk, and then our runners-up with 18 points apiece, the Rock Slide Bolter, and the Galro. Sorry guys, you didn't have the bacon, you couldn't cut the mustard. If you're not first, you're last. Or you're Miss Congeniality. Yeah. So, that was the pageant, guys. Hope you enjoyed.
It was great.
That fun little game. And that brainless little story that wasn't a story. But I needed something that my brain could just go to mush on this week. And I felt like, you know what? Let's talk about creatures, baby.
My story was also a little bit short. But you know what? Hey, we had to learn about blue people. And you know what? It's important because, like, what if your kid turns blue? What if you have kids and they turn blue? You gotta know.
If you have kids and they turn blue, you guys have bigger problems and you need to start asking questions of your parents.
I feel like, okay, but controversial take, hot take. I feel like everybody's a little bit inbred. I feel like a lot of people are a little
somewhere
bit inbred.
Down the line, yeah.
Yeah, like somewhere. But this is something that's like so aggressive that it can show up later.
It's tarot time. Baby,
it's tarot time.
Let's find out
tarot time.
What's gonna happen this week.
So, we have the... oh, wait. No. So, we have the Page of Pentacles reversed. That's like, well, you're frustrated about something. You might have a little bit of resentment about your frustration. Maybe to do with, like, something that you've done that was a little immature. Something that someone else did that was a little immature. We have the Ace of Wands upright. So that is, like, your inspiration, like, your potential. Like, this is the boundless potential that you have in your future. It can be, like, creativity. Usually it's more like creativity. And also your enthusiasm for it. So, like, you might be frustrated about something and something that, like, maybe you couldn't control or, like, you were immature about. So it didn't quite go the way that you planned out. But now you have this inspiration to get through it. And then we have the Three of Wands upright, which is, like, you're planning. You got strategy. You're looking over your little valley. And you're, like, mapping it out in your precious little skull. And, you know, maybe you're going to travel. Or maybe you're just thinking about the next step. So, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's all going to be good. It's all going to end up all right.
It's all coming up Millhouse.
Well, yeah. But no.
Well, on that note, my weekly fuck you is, of course, gonna be Steak and Shake.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you, Steak and Shake. That's all I gotta say. Fuck you. Anyway, yeah, that's my fuck yous for the week. And my fuck yeah for the week is that I got a new job, baby. That pays significantly more than what I'm currently making, too, which is great for me. Get that bag.
I'm also going to cautiously say fuck you to the forest spirits that trapped me in the forest for a week.
Yeah.
Because that's the narrative we're going with. Really, it was just an hour, but...
That was rude of them. Maybe it was a puck wedgie.
It probably was. I'm not going to lie. So, I was out in the woods. I was, like, mushroom hunting, because that's what you do in the Midwest. Like, you mushroom hunt.
It's morel season.
It's morel season. And, like, the dandelions are starting to get the white tops, and that's when you know, like, the morels are going to start coming out and, like, be of a good size to pick. Mm-hmm. So I'm out there in the woods, and I, like, slip into some kind of an alternate dimension or something, because, like, I went to a part of the woods that, like, wasn't on the land, but, like, when we went back later that day, I couldn't find where I went, but I was, like, in this, like, there was 2 little trees that were, like, low, so I had to duck into them. And then I was, like, in there, and I saw there was, like, a bunch of mushrooms. Not morels, but just, like, a bunch of mushrooms. I was like, oh, I'll, you know, keep this in my little noggin, because when these get bigger, they're, like, chicken of the woods mushrooms, the big orange ones.
Yeah.
I was like, we can come pick them, and we can, you know, cook them and eat them. Because those are hard to misidentify. Like, there's not very many. I mean, there are some, but, like, if you know how to identify them, then you're fine. And so then I was, like, trying to leave the little, like, area with, like, the 2 low trees that had, like, the branches out. And, like, I kept getting snagged. And, like, it was, like, the woods were pulling me back. And I was, like, trying to get out of... It was, like, the scene in Snow White where, like, the trees are, like, dragging her back into the forest. And then I was, like, okay, that's weird. And so then I'm probably gonna, like, get out of that area. And then it was, like, 2 hours later. So, I don't know if I was just really in the woods for 2 hours, which is plausible because I don't have a great concept of time. It was Sunday. It was, like, after the eclipse.
Oh, well, that's a good day to be out in the woods.
You know.
Yeah. When the veil is thin, so people can really just fuck with you.
Yeah. But then, so I was walking along, and I, like, saw some deer, and I was like, okay, cool deer. But then out of the corner of my eye, I saw, like, it looked like somebody, like a dark shadow figure, like, run across the trail, and I was like, okay, I'm done. Let's go. And also, like, the birds weren't chirping, which was another part that, like, kind of freaked me out a little bit, because I was like, usually that means there's, like, something, you know, like a cougar, you know, like
some
a cougar.
Sort of predator.
Right.
Or a tornado.
Not just, like, a human, because they don't really care about humans, but... So, yeah, there was no birds. Like, I couldn't hear any other, like, critters. So, yeah. I almost died in the woods.
Those fucking puck wedgies, man.
Yeah. It was, like, a little short, like, 2 feet tall, like... And I thought maybe it was just, like, a turkey or something, but then I, like, looked and I didn't see anything... Because it, like, ran across to where there's a field.
Maybe they knew that we were going to be hosting the pageant. And so they're like, we better really threaten her so that she votes for us. And it just, like, ingrained in your psyche. And now that's the reason that they ran away with the title so cleanly.
I did leave them some strawberry milk, though. So maybe they were just like, thank you. Please stay and be friends with us. And I was like, no, I gotta go back. Bye.
Bye. Please release me from your forest.
Yeah, so fun tip, if you're going out in the woods, just be like, hey, can I get some mushrooms? And then leave out some milk, like milk and honey or like strawberry milk, you know. Be like, hey, this is the trade, this is where it ends. You know, just in case there are forest spirits. Mm-hmm. You don't want to piss them off. You don't want to take their mushrooms, just be like, hey, I'll trade you.
Here's some milk. And this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me some mushies.
So yeah, pro tip of the day. Save yourself from your puckwudgies by giving them milk.
Yeah, puckwudgies love strawberry milk, and that is a survival tip straight from the mouth of Ashlee Franken.
Hey, but did I make it out alive?
She made it out alive, so it's legit.
It is.
But bigger question, did you make it out alive with morel mushrooms?
I did not. Not yet. Ugh. It's kind of a weird season, though. I think they're going to come a little bit later. Because where I was hunting...
Right now in, like, the eastern part of the United States, they're popping up. So eventually, I feel like we're usually a little bit later than, like, the backwoods and Appalachia and stuff.
It's been weird weather, too, because it's been, like, hot and then cold, like, freezing overnight. So I think once we get a couple more days of, like, consistent overnight temps staying above freezing. Also, where I was in the woods, it wasn't really, like, dark enough. There's a lot of tree light, but then, like, there's more woods behind it that have darker woods, but I just need to go to a different set of woods, but... Yeah. But then later we went out on the trails of the horses, and this is a good story. This is worth it. There was 2 people riding their horses in front of me, and I had my mini horse that I was leading. And we almost died because we were both heaving, like, from having to walk up the hill through the woods. We were both like... So, that was my other we almost died in the woods story, is that we almost had a heart attack walking up the hill. So, I got my exercise, almost got killed by puckwudgies. Yeah. That was it.
All right. Well, on that note, you guys, we'll wrap it up. Stay out of the forest or go into the forest and bring strawberry milk.
Yes.
Follow us on our socials in the descriptions. Figure it out. You're all very smart people. You're capable young adults and regular sized adults and possible teens.
And older adults.
And older adults and mothers of us. Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mount Gala Day. Happy Mother's Day. And
happy Puckwudgie winner.
Yeah, and congratulations to Puckwudgie, the winner of the 2022 Miss and or Mr. Creepy Crawly USA pageant. So
there she is.
Mr. America. Okay, bye guys.
Bye.